Hello everyone, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we will discuss the module Individual and Societal Multilingualism from the course Introduction to Linguistics. In this module, we will try to characterize the linguistic diversity in India, which results in multilingualism on various levels. We will also discuss the concepts of societal and individual multilingualism, which results in bilingual humor. Quite often, we see linguistic theories trying to characterize the nature of our knowledge of language. However, while doing so, we can see those theories idealizing or going away from social and political realities. Nevertheless, it is really important for us to understand the nature of our mental knowledge, especially in a situation where people naturally speak and learn more than one language. Multilingualism is a linguistic situation in which more than one language is spoken or used. In such a complex situation, linguists often look at it psychologically, cognitively, politically, and socially. Now we will try to understand each of these briefly. A psychological approach towards multilingualism seeks answers to questions such as how are the different languages represented in our mind or brain, and do they interact or interfere with one another. By political approach, we mean the importance of language in policy making. For example, in a multilingual situation, we should deal with questions such as which language or languages should be the language of education, law, administration, or government. And this is very crucial in such a way that the language of administration and government is often the language of power too. On the other hand, a social approach helps in analyzing the interaction between a language or a language group and the society. In this module, we will look at the picture of multilingualism in India and how people use their linguistic repertoire in a communication. Before going any further, let's have a look at the language situation in India. Languages from 4 language families are represented in India, namely Indo-Aryan, Dravidian, Tibeto-Burman, and Austroasiatic. The largest group of languages spoken in India today are the Indo-Aryan languages. This is a subgroup of Indo-European. Around the year 1500 BC, tribes whose language was Proto-Sanskrit are believed to have come into India. Over time, this gave rise to many of the languages currently spoken in the north and central parts of India, including Assamese, Bangla, Gujarati, Hindi, Urdu, Kashmiri, Konkani, Marathi, Odia, Punjabi, and Sindhi. However, it is believed that before the arrival of Indo-Aryans, there was already a population present on the subcontinent, and they were speakers of a different language type, which is now identified as Dravidian. Dravidian is the second largest language family in India, including languages such as Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, Kuruk, and Brahwe. Most Dravidian languages are spoken in the south of India, except for Kuruk and Brahwe, which is spoken in the North Indian belt. Brahwe, on the other hand, is spoken in today's Pakistan. And languages such as Meitei, Lushe, and Naga languages belong to the Tibeto-Burman language families. Whereas Munda languages of central and eastern India belongs to the Austroasiatic language family. And in India, we have a number of languages from all 4 language families. An important question that raises in such a situation is that of the total number of languages in India, that is, how many languages are there in India. The answer to this question depends on how you decide to count something as a language. It is obvious that language is tied up with identity, and therefore people may emphasize their linguistic differences. For example, the distinction between Hindi and Urdu lies mainly in the differences in the script. Even though the grammatical rules for Hindi and Urdu are pretty much the same, Hindi uses Devanagari script while Urdu uses the Arabic script. Yet we count them as two different languages, and each of these languages has become the face of a religion as well, that is Hindi for Hinduism and Urdu for Islam. On the other hand, one may treat the differences as merely dialectical. For example, the northern and southern varieties of Kannada or the literary and spoken varieties of Tamil. Similarly, in China, Mandarin and Cantonese are considered as dialects even though they are mutually unintelligible. So, despite the differences, they are counted as a dialectal varieties of the same language. So, now we saw two cases. First is that of Hindi and Urdu. Though they are mutually intelligible and similar to a great extent, they are still counted as two different languages. Whereas in case of Mandarin and Cantonese, they are mutually unintelligible, but still they are counted as dialects of the same language. In India, there are arguments and societal forces that emphasize linguistic plurality and diversity, as well as those that emphasize a commonality of heritage and a resulting unity. The 1961 census recorded 1,652 mother tongues in India. However, more than a quarter of these had only 4 or 5 speakers each, and around 200 mother tongues had populations of 10,000 speakers or more. Later, having a minimum of 10,000 speakers became a criteria for recording a language in the census. So, if a particular language do not have a minimum of 10,000 speakers, that language was excluded from the census. It was not counted as a language. The 8th schedule of the Constitution of India initially mentioned 14 languages. However, now it lists a total of 22 languages. According to the 1991 census of India, the speakers account for 96.29% of the population. U.R. Anandamurthy in 2000 made an interesting observation. He said that in India, the more literate one is, the fewer languages one knows. So, the 1991 census of India provides some figures about societal multilingualism. Koop Chandini in 1994 discusses the limitations as well as the importance of census data. The census figures show that the national average for bilingualism has steadily climbed. In 1961, the national average of bilingualism was 9.7%, whereas it increased to 13 to 34% in 1981, and by 1991 the national average of bilingualism was 19.44%. So, from 9.7 it has increased to 19.44%. Statistics shows that 3 out of 4 Konkani speakers and 2 out of 3 Sindhi speakers and 1 out of 3 Nepali, Urdu or Punjabi speakers are bilinguals. In fact, these language groups have a proportion of bilinguals well above the national average. At the other end of the spectrum, Hindi, Bengali and Odia are the only three languages with bilingual percentage below the all India figure, below the national average of bilingualism. Among the 4 main South Indian languages, more speakers of Malayalam are bilingual than those of Kannada, Telugu or Tamil in that order. And it is now necessary to understand why is it some languages have more bilingual population than the other. Some reasons for this variation are quite evident. For example, languages like Konkani and Sindhi are numerically small and their speakers are minorities and are distributed across states with other scheduled languages as official languages. For example, Konkanis have migrated to Bombay, Karnataka, Kerala and to many other states for various reasons over the course of time. And they have to be bilingual to survive and compete economically. So significantly, Konkanis and Sindhis also turn out to be the most trilingual populations. On the other hand, big languages such as Tamil, Hindi and Bengali are below the national average for trilingualism, that is just 7.26%. Now this is because as speakers of majority language, they have less pressure on them to learn another language. So far we discussed the concept of bilingualism, what results in bilingualism and the multilingual situation in India. By now we know which language group is most bilingual and least bilingual in India, and we have also tried to understand the reasons for this varying percentage. Now let's address another relevant question. What language are Indian bilinguals bilingual in? So the relevant question which we are now going to discuss is, what language are Indian bilinguals bilingual in? That is, when we say a particular community of India is bilingual, what are the two languages they speak, or which are the two languages in which they are competent in? Some language groups show conformity to the three language formula. First, that is first bilinguality in Hindi, and second trilinguality in English. So most people know their regional language and then Hindi and then English. So this varies depending on the state or the region where you come from. And this is true for Sindhi, Marathi and Gujarati. 2/3 of Sindhi bilinguals claim Hindi as a second language, and about a fifth claim English as a third language. This pattern is however reversed in southern India. Malayalam has 28.85% of bilinguals, and 3 out of 4 bilingual Malayalis claim English as their second language. So in the first case, that is for Sindhi, Marathis and Gujaratis, they claim that Hindi is their second language, whereas when you go down to the south of India, the most bilingual population is that of Malayalis, and they claim that English is their second language. Tamil has a lower proportion of bilinguals, that is 18.74%, but again many are English bilinguals, that is 2 out of every 3 are bilinguals in English. English is clearly ahead of Hindi in the bilingual scenario in India. Hindi is returned as a second or third language by 70 million of the 807 million speakers of scheduled languages, that is 8.67%. English is returned by 19 million people, that is 11.15% of the speakers of scheduled languages speaks English, and 8% report it as second, and 3.5% of people reports English as their third language. So in terms of in Hindi, only 70 million people identifies Hindi as their second language, whereas 90 million people recognize English as their second language. Khub Chandani 1994 states that during 1961 and 1971, English bilinguals increased from 26% to 35% in the bilingual population, whereas Hindi Urdu gained only 1% in the same period, and the current figure stands at 57.3% of English bilinguals as a percentage of bilinguals in India. A remarkable ability of multilinguals is that a proficient multilingual can use just any one of his or her languages while speaking without letting the other languages interfere while they are speaking. On the other hand, they can also choose to use more than one language of their choice depending on the situation. So that is, they can switch from one language to another depending on who they are speaking to, the level of formality and so on. And this is known as code switching. That is, the switching from one language to another in communication is known as code switching. And multilinguals can mix two or more languages while speaking, and they can also switch from one language to another. We will now describe the use of chord mixing and switching to create bilingual humor, which can be appreciated only by the speakers who are bilingual in same languages. Bilingual humor is a testimony to the bilingual or multilingual speakers' creativity. The jokes are annotated to show the complexity of their cultural references and language structuring. So now let's look at some examples of bilingual jokes. So it goes in the pattern of a question and answer. The question is, what did amoeba tell to the chai wala? So this is a English and Tamil bilingual joke. So the question is, what did the amoeba tell the chai wala? And the answer is suda podiya. So now in Tamil, suda means hot and podaya means make it. So suda podaya means please make the chai hot. So the joke is that amoeba has pseudopodia, that is a temporary protrusion on the surface of amoeba. Another example of a bilingual joke, again this is a Tamil and English bilingual joke. The question goes, why did the Tamilian cow eat the door? And the answer is because it has the word pull written on it. And why would especially a Tamilian cow eat the door and not any other cow? Because in Tamil, pull means grass, and of course the cow eats grass, and because the cow saw pull written on the door, the cow ate it. And again, the people who are proficient in Tamil and English will get the joke, and they'll understand these jokes without any difficulty. Now let's look at a Hindi-English bilingual joke. And again, this goes as a question and answer pattern. The question is, what did one brinjal say to another? And the answer is, let Bengans be Bengans. So here the reference is to the English saying, let bygones be bygones, and Bengan in Hindi means brinjals. Hence, one brinjal says to another, let Bengans be Bengans. Now, a joke creates a shared community. Many of such jokes are extended puns along two languages. They create a community of people who know both these languages and can draw upon two aspects of their personalities to understand them. And these jokes come from people who have been educated in English and who are also very comfortable in their own language. To summarize what we have learned so far, languages from 4 language families are represented in India, creating what linguists call a linguistic area. And as we mentioned earlier, we have the 4 language families in India are Indo-Aryan, Dravidian, Tibeto-Burman and Austroasiatic. The speakers of these languages interact with one another and they become naturally bilingual or multilingual, and their languages begin to influence one another. And this results in chord mixing and chord switching, that is, bilinguals who are proficient in both the languages can switch their conversation from one language to another. They can just jump into another language. A creative use of bilinguals repertoire is in the invention of bilingual jokes, and these jokes are quite linguistically and culturally complex and involve communities of multilingual speakers. So, I hope we are clear with the concepts of multilingualism and the multilingual situation in India. I hope this video helped you in understanding these concepts better. All the best and thank you.